Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayādvaita Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasadi Kaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Stotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Astotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Radhesha Prabhu. And welcome to everyone for Sri Caitanya-caritamrta with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami and friends. It is Thursday, June 27th, 2024 in New York. And tonight we're starting with Adi-lila, chapter 8, text number 40, as far as my notes say. And thank you very much, Radhesha Prabhu, for hosting tonight. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is my audio all right, Kendra Prabhu?
Sounds good to me, Maharaj.
Okay. I'm somebody else's setup here.
My obeisances to you, Guru Maharaj. Obeisances to everyone. Let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vrindavan Das Pade Koti Namaskar. Aiche Grantha Karitin Ho Tarila Sangsar. I offer millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Narayani Chaitanya Ruchishta Bhajana Tangra Garbhe Janmila Sridasa Vrindavana. Narayani eternally eats the remnants of the foodstuffs of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born of her womb. In Gora Ganodesha Deepika, a book written by Kavi Karnapur that describes all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who they previously were, there is the following statement regarding Narayani. Ambhikaya Swasa Yasin Namna Srila Kilimbika Krishnot Chishtam Prabhunjana Seyam Narayani Mata. Narayani Mata. When Lord Krishna was a child, he was nursed by a woman named Ambika, who had a younger sister named Kilimbika. During the time of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation, the same Kilimbika used to eat the remnants of foodstuffs left by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Kilimbika was Narayani, who was a niece of Srivas Thakur's. Later on, when she grew up and married, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born from her womb. A devotee of Lord Sri Krishna is celebrated in terms of devotional service rendered to the Lord. Thus we know Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur as the son of Narayani. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes in this connection that there is no reference to his paternal ancestry because there is no need to understand it. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutapatakamalam Shri Kurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. As I'm going through those invocation prayers, we chant the Panchatattva Mahamantra, Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. So the niece of Srivas Thakur is this Narayani, and from her womb comes Vrindavan Das Thakur. So appropriately, I offer millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all fallen conditioned souls. And then here we have Narayani Chaitanya Uchishta Bhajana. I like how Srila Prabhupada translates this, eternally eats the remnants of foodstuffs. It's a little bit, in my head, it's directly opposite of the Uchishta Lepan, Sakrit, that in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, we get Narada Muni describing that Uchishta Lepan, that one time I had the remnants of the foodstuffs of these Bhaktivedantas. So just once having the remnants, just see the position of Narada Muni. And here Srila Prabhupada writes, eternally eats the remnants of foodstuffs of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just see the grand position of Narayani. And in the Gauraganodesha Deepika, we're getting this background information that she was the younger sister of Ambika. And there she was the nursemaid, or the younger sister of the nursemaid. And we see sometimes that puts a devotee in an embarrassing situation when they're in a senior position to Krishna. We see this in Queen Kunti's prayer. She couldn't jump right to Namaste Pankajangre. She had to start with Namo Pankajanabhaya, Namo Pankajamalini, Namo Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangre, starting with the lotus navel of the Lord, going up through his garland to his eyes, and then she gets to go to his feet. But in this pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, she got to directly be in the service of the Lord and directly in a position to take his foodstuffs unashamedly, unabashedly. And I had another thought that, well, speaking of Uchishta, we also have in the 17th chapter of Gita the Aharas Tvapi Sarvasya Trividha, the foodstuffs that we are in three qualities. That which is Ayu Sattva Balarogya, that which increases our life, is healthy, is nourishing. This is foodstuffs in the mode of goodness. And passion, we have a Katvamla, Lavanat, Yushna, you have salty things, pungent things, too bitter, too much of everything. And then in the mode of ignorance, you get Uchishta, that which is the remnants of foodstuff left by other people. Puti, Paryu, that which smells horrible. What's the first line? Anyway, like Yatayamam Gatarasam. Gatarasa. It has no flavor. It's been left out. Srila Prabhupada says Yatayamam for 3 hours or more. Never mind days or weeks. Throw it in the microwave. It's completely tasteless. Gatarasa. And Uchishta. It's the remnants of who knows whom. You just grab anything and hey, that looks good. And it reminds me of the story you just told me, Guru Maharaj, of the preaching of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, that these people had the most foul concoction of foodstuffs, that any dead thing they threw it in and it's fermenting and sitting there and it's so horrible. And yet those people who were eating this foul substance, when they smelled the foodstuffs cooked in ghee, they thought, oh, this is foul. This smells horrible. So we see the different positions. And on the highest level, we have Narayani, who's eternally eating the Uchishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that foodstuffs which is left by Mahaprabhu. And I'm reminded of, actually it was a class I was hearing this morning by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. He quoted the trip of Cortez, that when he arrived on the Mexican shores, he ordered his follower, please scuttle the boats, burn the ships, quemar las naves. And when you burn the ships, it means there's no return. And so this is the position of Narayani. There's no return to material life. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's born from those settlers of the spiritual mission. And therefore there's no alternative, he has no recourse but spiritual life. There's no turning back. He's 100% invested. He's one of those devotees who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, and therefore we're seeing that such a wonderful book he's written for the similar deliverance of other fallen souls. And so we're offering obeisances to him, and then we're giving a background that here's who he came from, and that therefore what we can expect from him. Guru Maharaj, if you have.
Very nicely. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtate Shatani. Just that one line, that there's no need of mentioning Vrindavan Das Thakur's father. So we see how the devotee is glorified. Narayani is so glorious because of her devotion to the Lord, and the father is simply not mentioned. So it's quite a, significant. Hare Krishna.
Would you mind expanding on that, Guru Maharaj? What exactly you found so significant?
Well, I liked how it was put. He didn't need to say that his father must have been a materialist or a non-devotee of some sort. He just said there's no need of mentioning him. If he'd been glorious, he would have certainly been mentioned, just as Narayani was mentioned for her glorious activities. Had his father been glorious, he would have been mentioned. But he says there's no need of mentioning his father. That means, the meaning is clear.
Thank you. All right, for text 42, Panchatattva Prabhu, are you available?
Sure, no problem. Bharati Adbhuta Caitanya-caritamrta Varnan Yahara Shravane Shuddha Koila Tribhuvan. What a wonderful description he has given of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone in the three worlds who hears it is purified. Ateva Bhajaloka Chaitanya Nityananda Kandibe Sangsar Dukha Pabe Premananda. I fervently appeal to everyone to adopt the method of devotional service given by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, and thus be freed from the miseries of material existence and ultimately achieve the loving service of the Lord. I have nothing on these, but Guru Maharaj, even though they don't have purports, are you interested in saying something? You have to unmute. It's notable how extensively Kaviraj Goswami is glorifying the author of Caitanya-Bhagavatam Monday. Not only is he not trying to surpass him or overstep him, but he's glorifying him so extensively. Yeah. There are a lot of verses that head without purports. Would someone else like to read?
I think you should go ahead, Prabhu. Just keep on going and going.
Okay. Vrindavana Dasa Koila Chaitanya Mangala Tahate Caitanya-lila Varnila Sakal. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Sri Chaitanya Mangala, and therein described in all respects the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Sutra Kari Sabalila Karila Grantan Pache Vistariya Tahar Kaila Vivaran. He first summarized all the pastimes of the Lord and later described them vividly in detail. Chaitanya Chandrera Lila Ananta Apar Vanite Vanite Granta Haila Vishtar. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited and unfathomable. Therefore, in describing all those pastimes, the book became voluminous. Vistara Dekhyakyichu Sankoch Hoilaman Sutra Dritta Konulila Nakoila Varnan. He saw them to be so extensive that he later felt that some had not been properly described. Nityananda Lila Varnane Haila Avesh Chaitanyara Sesha Lila Rahila Avashesh. He ecstatically described the pastimes of Lord Nityananda, but the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained untold. Se Sabalilar Shunite Vivaran Vrindavan Vasi Bhaktir Utkantitaman. The devotees of Vrindavan were all very anxious to hear those pastimes. Vrindavane Kalpa Drume Suvana Sadan Mahayoga Pita Taha Ratna Singhasan. In Vrindavan, in a great place of pilgrimage, underneath the desire trees, is a golden throne bedecked with jewels. Hatte Vasi Ache Sada Vrajendra Nandan Shri Govinda Dev Nam Sakshat Madan. On that throne sits the son of Nanda Maharaj, Shri Govinda Dev, the transcendental Cupid. Rajaseva Hoy Taha Vichitra Pakar Divya Samagri Divya Vastra Alankar. Varieties of majestic service are rendered to Govinda there. His garments, ornaments, and paraphernalia are all transcendental. Sahasra Seva Ka Seva Kari Anukshan, Sahasra Vadane Seva Nayaya Varnan. In that temple of Govindaji, thousands of servitors always render service to the Lord in devotion. Even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe this service. Sevar Adyaksha Sri Pandita Haridas, Tara Yasha Guna Sarva Jagate Prakash. In that temple, the chief servitor was Sri Haridas Pandit. His qualities and fame are known all over the world. Purport. Sri Haridas Pandit was a disciple of Sri Ananta Acharya, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit.
Maybe before we go too much further on this other track of Sri Haridas Pandit and the worship of Govindaji, when I saw Varnite, that these different pastimes are described, and the book was becoming too voluminous. I was reminded of the verses in Adi-lila where Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is expressing his inability to describe completely the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he describes that even Ananta Shesh, who has thousands of mouths, cannot begin to encompass the totality of these pastimes. It's just too much. And so I was looking at those verses. Here it is. Even Anantadev, who has thousands of faces, could not reach the end of describing the transcendental bliss of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. How then could an ordinary living being with very little intelligence describe such pastimes? Nevertheless, I am trying to touch but a particle of them, just to rectify myself. There is no limit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities and his words of madness. Therefore, describing them all would greatly increase the size of this book. Whatever pastimes Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has first described, I have merely summarized. Anyway, I could keep on reading this, but it takes us down a different path. But when you were reading those verses, that jumped into my mind, so I quickly looked it up and on the same topic. But I like that line especially, Mahaprabhu's madness, his words of madness. How can we describe these words? And so but here we are. We're going down one track of it, one vein of this spiritual exposition. So I'll let you continue, Prabhu.
Sushila Sehishnu Shanta Vadanya Gambhira Madhura Vachana Madhur Cheshta Mahadhira. He was gentle, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words, and very sober in his endeavors. Sabara Samana Karta Karena Sabharhit Kautilyamatsaria Hingsa Najane Tanrachita. He was respectful to everyone and worked for the benefit of all. Diplomacy, envy, and jealousy were unknown to his heart. Krishnaraye sadharana sadguna pankshash se sabo gunir tara sharire nivas. The 50 qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. Purport. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna are mentioned. Among these, 50 are primary, ayam neta, suramyanga, etc. And in minute quantity, they were all present in the body of Sri Haridas Pandit. Since every living entity is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all 50 of these good qualities of Sri Krishna are originally minutely present in every living being. Due to his contact with material nature, these qualities are not visible in the conditioned soul. But when one becomes a purified devotee, they all automatically manifest themselves. This is stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 5:18-12 as mentioned in the text below. So all I'll say is that we are that Sri Haridas Pandit exemplifies the purified devotee, and in the purified devotee, these qualities of Sri Krishna are manifest in purity in the jiva, the living entity, when he's engaged and fully purified in devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Anything further, Guru Maharaj, on this topic?
Nothing further here from me. We'll read on and see how he develops this theme.
All right. I can't help but take, if you don't mind, one small detour back. I don't know if my video is sideways. I can.
You're good now.
I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit further, when you keep going in those Adi-lila verses, it goes back to glorifying Vrindavan Das Thakur as described as the original Vyasadeva in describing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, this is the purport, that all writers after Vrindavan Das Thakur who are pure devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who have tried to describe the Lord's activities are to be considered like Vyas. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is the original Vyasadeva in describing Caitanya-lila, and all others who follow in his footsteps by describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are also to be called Vyasadeva. The bona fide spiritual master is called Vyas because he is a representative of Vyas. Worshipping the birthday of such a spiritual master is called Vyasa Puja. So I just wanted to share those last little bits from Adi-lila glorifying Vrindavan Das Thakur and recognizing that just by following in the footsteps, then you get all these good qualities which we're about to describe. It's not a process of inventing something new. It's not a process of displaying one's own intellect. And in our online Sangha here in Hawaii, we're about to hit the verses describing the 12 Mahajans. So I've taken a deep dive looking at places where Srila Prabhupada quoted those verses. And consistently, what he's bringing forward is that they have all the good qualities, sarvayar gunais tatra samasate sura, because they're following in the footsteps, because they're following these Mahajans whose exclusive business is to glorify the Lord in the line of the previous acharyas. So in light of that, I'll just read this verse. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvayar gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahad guna manoraten asati dhavato bahi. In one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifested. However, one who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by mental concoction in material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. And I'm not going to comment on that. If you want, Guru Maharaj, you can. I just feel that there's no purport here, but this verse could be spoken on for many, many days. But if you have something to mention here, I'll...
Well, exactly. We could discuss it on and on. It's often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. But let's carry on.
All right. Can we have... who's available? Donna Kaylee, Devi, are you available to read text 59? Or Tulsi Toshini Devi, if you have it pulled up, are you available to read today? Well, while you sort... Yes?
Oh, yes, I'm available.
Yeah, we hear you. Are you on text 59?
59? It wasn't 42. Oh, no, yeah, it's true. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just walking Japa. Okay, wait. I'm going to get it now. 59. It won't be too long. Sorry for that. Okay. All right. Pandita Gosanira Sisya Anantacharya Krishna Prema Mayatanu Udara Sarva Arya. Translation. Ananta Acharya was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. His body was always absorbed in love of Godhead. He was magnanimous and advanced in all respects. 60. Tanhara Guna Kekaru Prakasha Tanra Priya Sishyaina Pandita Haridas. Ananta Acharya was a reservoir of all good qualities. No one can estimate how great he was. Pandit Haridas was his beloved disciple. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur writes in his Anubash, Sri Ananta Acharya is one of the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Previously, during the event of Lord Sri Krishna, Ananta Acharya was Sudevi, one of the 8 gopis. This is stated in the Gora Ganodesha Dipika 165 as follows. Anantacharya Goswami ya Sudevi Pura Vraje. Anantacharya Goswami was formerly Sudevi Gopi in Braja Vrindavan. In Jagannath Puri or Purushottama Kshetra, there is a monastery known as Ganga Mat that was established by Anantacharya. In the disciplic succession of the Ganga Mata Mat, he is known as Vinod Manjari. One of his disciples was Haridas Pandit Goswami, who is also known as Sri Raghu Gopal and as Sri Rasamanjari. His disciple Lakshmi Priya was the maternal aunt. His disciple Lakshmi Priya was the maternal aunt of Ganga Mata, a princess who was the daughter of the king of Putiya. Ganga Mata brought a deity of the name Sri Rasikarai from Krishna Mishra of Jaipur and installed him on the house of Sarvabhauma in Jagannath Puri. The disciple in the 5th generation after Sri Anantacharya was Sri Vanamali. In the 6th generation, Sri Bhagavan Das, who was a Bengali. In the 7th generation, Madhusudan Das, who was an Oriya. In the 8th generation, Nilambar Das. In the 9th generation, Sri Narottam Das. In the 10th generation, Pitambar Das. And in the 11th generation, Sri Madhava Das. The disciple in the 12th generation is presently in charge of the Ganga Mata monastery. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashvakaya Chakshurumiritam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare Shrimati Kadamba Kanana Swami Nityanamne. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare Shrimati Gurudas Jayādvaita Swami Nityanamne. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamne. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesh Sunyavadi Prasthaya. So here Srila Prabhupada depicts like all the, from the generation of Gadadhar, like direct associate of the Lord until up to now, that we can see that this succession even there, and still taking care of this Ganga Mata monastery. So it's very, very nice to see. And there's so many names. The only one that I remember seeing is Srila Narottam Das Thakur, so he's part of this disciplic succession. Lakshmi Priya, I don't know. I guess it's not the same Lakshmi Priya that, of course, probably not the Lord Chaitanya's wife. And yeah, I see there's some Matajis in there also, so it's intriguing, to tell you the truth. So Guru Maharaj, if you have any thoughts or more comments, please go ahead.
I'm not sure that the Narottam mentioned here is the Narottam Das Thakur. These names get repeated or given to different people. Gangamata Goswamini is a celebrated Vaishnavi in renounced life, and she appears as an extraordinary example of a guru in the parampara system. Generally, we don't find ladies in that role, but here we do. Gangamata, who was, again, extraordinary in her characteristics.
It was her appearance day just about 10 days ago, just for noting Gangamata's appearance day. So in our local classes here, we heard extensive glorification of her. It's quite amazing, her accomplishments, and we see her glorified in this purport. All right, shall we continue? Who do we have to read? Kendra Prue, is your voice not suitable for reading? Forgive me for asking you, but if otherwise we can continue to hunt other readers. Well, Tulsi Priya Devi, are you reading today? Surabhi Kunj Devi, you just jumped on the group. Are you reading?
I can read.
Okay.
Chaitanya Nitanande tar parama bishpas, Chaitanya chorite tar parama ullas. Pandit Haridas had great faith in Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Therefore, he took great satisfaction in knowing about their pastimes and qualities. Vaishnavar guno grahi na dekaye dosha, kai mano bhakye kore Vaishnav santosha. He always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. Purport. It is a qualification of a Vaishnava that he is a dosha-darshi. He never sees others' faults. Of course, every human being has both good qualities and faults. There is, therefore, it is said, Sajjana gunam icchanti, dosham icchanti pamaraha. Everyone has a combination of faults and glories. But a Vaishnava, a sober man, accepts only a man's glories and not his faults. For flies seek sores, whereas honeybees seek honey. Haridas Pandit never found fault with the Vaishnava, but considered only his good qualities. Well, this is an example to be emulated. The characteristic of a Vaishnava is that he appreciates other Vaishnavas. He takes pleasure in finding or glorifying the good qualities of the Vaishnavas, and he's averse to hearing or speaking about any ill fame of a Vaishnava or any so-called bad qualities of a Vaishnava. If we look, we can always find something to criticize. But a devotee on the level of Haridas Pandit sees, never found fault with a Vaishnava, just considered their good qualities. This is spiritual vision.
Panchatattva Prabhu, please ask away.
It's just a comment that I'm reading. I'm thinking how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami he's naming these different devotees of Vrindavan who really want to hear the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's giving all of their amazing transcendental qualities and then just humbly saying, I'm taking this service up because they requested it. They're the ones that wanted it. Although, what does he say later on? He says, although I'm shameless, he says, he's so humble. He's so humble. There's not a trace of pride. Like, there's a tendency among authors to be proud of their work and proud of themselves. But none of that is here in the character of Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj. And look at the company he keeps. Hare Krishna.
The mundaners take pleasure in finding faults in others. They take pleasure in being critics, in telling it as it is, broadcasting whatever bad qualities they discover. It's a very unfortunate quality.
We have a question from Murari Gupta Prabhu Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, is there a mystical aspect to the writing of books like Caitanya-caritamrta, or are the extensive details drawn from notes and conversations that Krishnadas Kaviraj had access to?
Kaviraj Goswami says early in the book that he had access, especially to the notes of Murari Gupta and I believe the notebooks of Swarup Damodar. So it's not just all closing your eyes and visualizing or receiving an inspired message. Although Prabhupada says, we were just reading recently, that the devotee sits near the Lord and goes on writing, and the Lord helps him. So there's certainly what you would call a mystical aspect to it. But it's not just, doesn't work that way. I remember I was thinking that way about Prabhupada's purports, that they were just sort of coming from Goloka Vrindavan, which in one sense they certainly are. But Prabhupada, of course, referred to the commentaries of the Acharyas. So we would send Prabhupada a question, for example, expecting that Prabhupada would simply answer it. But Prabhupada would say something, I don't have the reference book with me right now. And after a while, we got to know that if we had a question, we should send the relevant page from the text and from the commentaries, and then Prabhupada would refer to those or be able to refer to those. So that doesn't detract from the mystical or spiritual quality of the writing. But at the same time, it shows us that it's not just coming from unanchored inspiration. Nana Shastra Vicharane Kunpanam. The Goswamis were carefully reviewing, probing the texts of the Acharyas, the texts of the Shastras. Not that they were simply absorbed in ecstasy. They certainly were, but they also had texts to refer to, or texts they wished to refer to. So both things are there. I hope that's right.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And we have from Panchatattva Prabhu, Vrindavan Das Thakur's spiritual master, Raghunath Das Goswami. He heard from him extensively for the writing.
Right.
And then I have a question for you in today's purport, and this is something that we go back and forth on in our Vaishnava Sangha, where someone feels justified in being dosha-darshi and seeing faults when they're trying to protect the Sangha at large. You know, if one devotee is known for some bad quality that's potentially harmful, like say a devotee is a thief, maybe you'd want to let someone know before inviting that person into the house, not to find fault, but just protect yourself. Hey, this devotee maybe has been known to grab things. So is there any scope for that, or is that purely fault finding?
No, there's scope. We can't be naive and allow Vaishnavas or those who are practicing the path of devotional service to harm others. So it's interesting. Here, Haridas Pandit is on that platform where Pandit Samadarshana, he sees everyone on the spiritual platform. That's the Uttama Adhikari platform. But on the Madhyam platform, one has to make distinctions. The spiritual master makes distinctions and finds the faults in the disciple. And a person in administration has to consider such matters as who's fit and who's unfit for a particular kind of work, or who may even be dangerous. It's not unreasonable. The Parikshit Maharaj wasn't on such a high platform that he would see Kali to be on the same level as the bull and the cow. He saw this man as a rogue. He has to be challenged.
So we don't get any direction, though, in Shastra that this person can find faults, in this position it's okay to find faults, none that I know of. So how are we supposed to determine where the line is too far?
Well, we do see examples in Shastra. We see particularly that those in administration have to make such distinctions. Saintly people may, or the Brahminical class, may be more liberal, but the administrators especially have to note such distinctions.
Thank you much. And Panchatattva Prabhu gives us one guideline. Just don't go on the internet and make a years-long public campaign against someone's perceived faults, as is the custom today. And I will give a further guideline. Don't go on social media at all, and you'll save yourself a lot of sadness.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll start cycling our readers. I'll go ahead and read a couple more, and if there's time, we'll send it back to Panchatattva Prabhu and so on. Nirantara Shunetingho Chaitanya Mangala Tanhara Prasadi Shunena Vaishnava Sakala. He always heard the reading of Sri Chaitanya Mangala, and all the other Vaishnavas used to hear it by his grace. We're speaking about Haridas Pandit.
Haridas Pandit.
Yes, Maharaj?
Haridas Pandit, right?
Yes, Haridas Pandit. Yes. And just a quick comment on that. Because he was always reading, then the Vaishnavas also got to hear it. So if our engagements are something besides, then those who are close to us also miss out. So I like that it's stated here that not only was he reading it, but those who are close to him thus got to hear it.
It's a great service to be reading Vaishnava literature for the enlightenment of others, the pleasure of others, to be reading Prabhupada's books or to be reading Vaishnava literature in such a way that many other people will hear. Even if we think of social media or the modern internet, that's the real beneficial use of these things. Use them for reading Prabhupada's books, use them for broadcasting Krishna consciousness.
Kataya Sabha Ujvala Kare Yena Purna Chandra Nijagunamrite Bardaya Vaishnava Ananda. Like the full moon, he illuminated the entire assembly of the Vaishnavas by speaking Chaitanya Mangala, and by the nectar of his qualities, he increased their transcendental bliss. Ten hoati kripa kari agnya kaila more, gangera gaurangera shesha lila varni bare tare. By his causeless mercy, he ordered me to write about the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I believe we heard, was it Panchatattva Prabhu? Was it you who just quoted that? It was by the order of the devotees.
He's saying well, it's all these devotees later, he says. He's listing all out for us so that we know who was encouraging him to do this, begging him to do. You have to write.
Thank you, Prabhu. Kashishvara Gosai Shisha Govinda Gosai Govindera Priya Sevak Tangra Samanai. Govinda Gosai, the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan, was a disciple of Kashishvara Gosai. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. Kashishvara Gosai, also known as Kashishvara Pandit, was a disciple of Ishvara Puri and the son of Vasudev Bhattacharya, who belonged to the dynasty of Kanji-lala Kanu. His surname was Chaudhuri. His nephew, his sister's son, who was named Rudra Pandit, was the original priest of Vallabhapur, which was situated about 1 mile from the Sri Ramapura railway station in the village of Chatara. Installed there are the deities of Radha Govinda and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kashishvara Gosai was a very strong man, and therefore when Lord Chaitanya visited the temple of Jagannath, he used to protect the Lord from the crowds. Another of his duties was to distribute prasad to the devotees after kirtan. He was also one of the contemporaries of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was with the Lord in Jagannath Puri. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also visited this temple at Vallabhapur. At that time, the person in charge was a Shaivite, Sri Shiva Chandra Chaudhuri, who was a descendant of Kashishvara Gosai's brother. In Vallabhapur, there was a permanent arrangement to cook 9 kilos of rice, vegetables, and other foodstuffs, and near the village there is sufficient land which belongs to the deity on which this rice was grown. Unfortunately, the descendants of Kashishvara Gosai's brother have sold a major portion of this land, and therefore the deity worship has now been hampered. It is said in the Gauraganodesha Deepika that the servant of Krishna in Vrindavan named Bringara descended as Kashishvara Gosai during the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In our householder life, we also sometimes visited this temple of Vallabhapur and took prasad there at noon. The deities of this temple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda and the Gauranga Vigraha, are extremely beautiful. Near Vallabhapur is another beautiful temple of Jagannath. We sometimes used to take prasad in this Jagannath temple also. These two temples are situated within 1 mile radius of the Sri Ramapur railway station near Calcutta. The only note that I have in this context is that he was extremely strong and sometimes acted as Mahaprabhu's bodyguard. I appreciated that. Guru Maharaj, if you have anything on this purport or verse.
We should be very careful to see that the property of the deity remains the property of the deity. When the deity's property is alienated or sold, then that's unfortunate. Deity worship is meant to be supported by such property. And we see in ISKCON examples of how the deity's property has been sold under some sort of extremity. And then later the worship of the Lord or the spreading of Krishna consciousness is hampered because those assets, those resources are no longer available and can't really be replaced. So the Prabhupada's will, practically 90% of it or more, is simply concerned with protecting various properties belonging to the deity. So we should be attentive to that point.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Yeah. We have some comments. The story from Ramanujacharya is given by Priti Purna Madhavi Devi, but I don't understand the context. Maybe if you let us know, we can read that, but I don't see how it relates to our verses. Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, there is a theory that the association during the Acharyas were more than ideal, but that is not the case now. So the Acharyas could see no faults, and yet there would be no problem. since there weren't any serious faults. But today, if you do not see the faults, then you could lose your money. From what I read in Shastra, there were some pretty heavy characters, even in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have dacoits like Jagai and Madhai, never mind others, who were an ocean of faults. So I'm not totally sure that's.
There were thieves who tried to kidnap Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a child, and there was the hunter that became a Vaishnava. Of course, that was Narad Muni's time, but no, there's plenty of instances.
How about the who was the Rajput devotee who said, "We have 100 more armed men in the forest surrounding"? So he threatened. So where devotees are beset by adverse circumstances. In any case, the point can be taken that sometimes you are in ideal association, and then the fault finding is purely unnecessary. Let's see. Oh, Priti Purna Madhavi Devi gives the context. So the context when the example is given of a thief seeing the good qualities in Vaishnavas, even in that situation. Oh, okay. So she gives the story of Ramanujacharya sending his disciples to steal from the householder devotees, and the householder devotees, except in that example, the householders could understand that the brahmacharis were stealing. They were trying to say, okay, we're giving some donation to them. They were very renounced. But I think in the case that anyway, it's a very good example. The devotees don't need to necessarily protect themselves from thieves if they're very renounced and the thieves are worthy of the donation. So yeah, very nice.
It is a story. Yeah, when they sent to steal from the jewelry from that householder's wife when she turned over, so that they could steal even more easily.
Yes. Yeah, very nice story. Panchatattva Prabhu says, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes these devotees, he is not exaggerating. That's a nice point as well. Sometimes we give glorification that's hyperbole, or in the case we're reading the Prithu Maharaj pastime, you give glorification of something that hasn't been accomplished yet. So when we hear this glorification, it means that these are things that have been accomplished, and therefore the glorification is just. Otherwise, it's just an insult. So yeah, nice point, Panchatattva Prabhu. Thank you. From Praveen Krishna Prabhu, he says, I was talking about association with devotees. Yes. Okay, that's a nice clarification. So, and that follows in line with Priti Purna Devi Dasi's description, Priti Purna Madhavi Devi Dasi's description of the Ramanujacharya pastime in which he sent his disciples to steal. So in association with devotees, even if the devotees are thieves, sometimes this is also tolerated. No fault in the devotees. All right. Well, we've reached our time. We could explore the topic of which devotees we let steal and which we don't for longer, but I think we'll move to Kirtan. Panchatattva Prabhu, are you willing and able to lead our closing Kirtan?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri-Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi-Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shyamakund Radhakund, Girgavardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribol.
Haribol, thank you all so much for joining us today. Sri Caitanya-caritamrta ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, His Holiness Jayādvaita Maharaj ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande
Haribol. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Radhesh Prabhu.
Thank you all, and particularly thanks to Priti Purna Devi, Madhavi Devi, and Praveen Krishna Prabhu for I was ready to point out the faults and thieving devotees, and here we have such a good example of even then, apiche suduracharo. It's amazing how when you take to Krishna consciousness, whatever faults may be there. So certainly we should be adosha darshi. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.